UI design, the user interface UI is the space where interactions between humans and machines occur. Yeah, I can never say that word right, occur. UI is an integral aspect of user experience that consists of two major parts: visual design, which conveys the look and feel of a product, and interaction design, which is the functional and logical organization of the elements. So they have to work in conjunction with each other. You could have a great design, the colors are nice, the graphics are nice, but if the way in which somebody interacts with that product or that app doesn't follow logically, more than likely the person is not going to use the app or the website. They may be forced to use it only because it's the only thing there, the only thing out there. They will use it, like I said, because they have to, not necessarily by choice sometimes. So you can have the most beautifully designed app or website, but if it doesn't function properly, you probably won't have a lot of users going to it on a regular basis. The goal of user interface design is to create a user interface that it makes it easy, efficient, and enjoyable for users to interact with the product. Learn about the different types of that sentence. Like I said, I copied and pasted this from Adobe. I think that might have been a link on the original page. Learn about the different types of UI as well as fundamental design requirements for each type. So a website has a little bit different user interface than an app does. And that again goes back to screen real estate. On a computer, you have a lot more, excuse me, a lot more space as opposed to a phone. So everything's going to look smaller or more condensed on a phone than it would on a laptop screen or your, computer screen. So you have to take those things into consideration, excuse me, when you're designing. Okay, so what is UI design? UI design prioritizes the user's visual experience. A good user interface is functional, reliable, and enjoyable to use. If it's not functional, people aren't going to stay with the app. And it should be enjoyable to use. And I think it was Astrid that brought up the comment about the Disney app versus the Disney website, how it was a little bit more interactive on the phone, because obviously you're not going to have a computer with you when you're at the theme park. So you have that functional aspect as well as enjoyable to use, because you can give it to your kids, or even you as the parent can find things for the kids to do at Disneyland as opposed to just kind of wandering around. User interface design should minimize the effort that the user has to invest in interacting with a product and help users accomplish their goals with ease. So Victoria brought up the issue with Steam, trying to find a certain aspect of it took some time as opposed to it just being right there, easy to use or easy to find. Designers use methods of user-centered design, user interviews, direct observations, etc., to learn about their target audience and ensure that the visual language they introduce in the UI is well tailored to them. So going back to the Disney app, you want to make it functional or easy for both the parents and the kids to use, because if the kids are frustrated trying to find something, then the adult may also be frustrated trying to find something. And if, like you mentioned, standing in line, waiting to get on a ride, and you want to keep the kids occupied and not fit, wandering around, having something easy to find on the app is going to keep them occupied while you're standing in the line and make it so that it doesn't seem that you're standing in line that long. So your target audience should always be in the back of your mind. Who's going to use this app or this website in the end, or in the beginning? Think about that. You always wanted to design it towards multiple audiences if possible, but if you know that, again, back to the Disney app, or even some of the apps that are out now for the kids for learning at home, to keep them occupied and engaged at the same time, so it doesn't feel like they're doing, you're forcing them to do schoolwork, but it's still fun and engaging at the same time. Let's see. It is important to make the UI aesthetically pleasing because interfaces that have great aesthetics are perceived as more usable by end users according to the aesthetic usability effect. But at the same time, if the app or the web interface is too flashy, it kind of takes away from your overall goal of the website or the app. It can tend to slow things down, especially on the website. Again, if your connection isn't that good, the longer it takes something to load on even your phone or your computer, the less likely you are to stay on that website, unless it's something that you absolutely need to for your job or school. Even if you think about the Zoom interface, the one I have is a little bit more user friendly than what I was using last semester. But if you don't know exactly where to click, or the text is confusing, or even the graphics that are used are confusing or too flashy, you're kind of get turned off because it's distracting from the overall message of the app or the website. Okay. What are the most important elements of UI design? Good UI design is critical to a product's success. Without it, users may find a product to be unusable. Most designers follow a set of user interface design principles to guide their designs and ensure their products are successful. And that also goes back to design principles, which I will show you the page so that you can read over that as well. One of the main design principles is proximity and visual hierarchy. Proximity has to do with alike items being next to each other. So if Jules mentioned the menu being on a different side on Facebook on the app as opposed to the desktop version or the web version, that kind of throws you off. So it should be the same on both. So proximity, again, too, is the links all should be together. You don't want to have a link for one thing on the right side and a link to something else on the left side. They all should be in proximity, close to each other. And then visual hierarchy goes back to what's the most important thing on the page, or for going from print, or even on the screen. What is your main purpose of the design? Usually it could be the logo, or it could be the login feature, or something like that. So what's the most important part of the app, or like, because I'm from the print part, the most important thing on the page. Let's see. The most important elements of UI design are: place users in control of the interface, make it comfortable to interact with a product, reduce cognitive load, and make user interfaces consistent. So that last one, like Jules mentioned, the Facebook app versus the Facebook website. It should be consistent on both. You shouldn't have to think when you go between the apps or between the website and the app, excuse me, to figure out where things are. Okay. Any questions about any of those first couple paragraphs? And if I'm talking too fast, or you don't understand, or you need a little bit more clarification on something I said, just go ahead and let me know. Okay. Okay. So let me move this up a little bit here. What are the three main types of UI design? There are various types of UI design, but the most popular are graphic user interface, or GUI, voice over interface, and menu driven. In GUIs, or graphic user interface, users interact with information by manipulating visual objects on a digital screen using a device or touch. So think of your laptop or your computer, the operating system, or even any of the apps like Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator. Those are graphic user interfaces. The elements of a well-designed graphic user interface should be designed to support good learnability and findability. When users see a familiar visual design, visual elements, and interaction patterns, they can understand how to interact with the UI just by looking at it. So if you think about all the Adobe products, they're all pretty much laid out the same as far as where the menus are, where the toolbox is, where the panels are. You can rearrange them to your liking as far as where the tools and the panels show up, but the menu bar at the top is always the same. And most of the menus contain the same basic elements. So if you think about under the file menu, you have new, open, close, save, save as. Under the edit menu, you have cut, copy, paste. So those are always consistent among Adobe products and even a lot of the other products that you use on your computer. It is also important to make sure that elements in a GUI are uniform. UI should be consistent to create a sense of control and reliability. So even going back to the Adobe products or any application on your computer, if you have a Mac or a PC, the menus are the same on both platforms. The only thing that changes is the keyboard shortcut. The little icons for the keyboard shortcuts change on a PC and a Mac. But the overall layout or the menu items remain the same. Voice user interfaces are quickly gaining traction. The rising number of voice-enabled assistants being sold across the world prove that users find such devices valuable. Voice user interfaces require a different design approach. Designers need to create an efficient conversational UI in which words and syntax play a crucial role. So that is your Alexa, your different Google, the Google product where you talk into it and it does what you tell it to do. To create more human interaction, designers need to invest in learning human psychology and even putting more focus on validating their design decisions using voice-based prototypes. Another main type of UI includes a menu-driven interface, which provides users a range of commands in menu or list form from a drop or pull down menu, full screen, or pop-up. So that is on your phone, on your tablets, websites, and that's also the apps like on the gaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, that type of thing, because they do have menus where you can select different things. Then they do have pop down menus as well, or pull down menus. So that's what that menu driven interface is.
Sorry, so what is it exactly is the GUI then? If it's not using menus, like what is it using then? Just like buttons or something, or?
Well, I've always thought of that as like your desktop on either a PC or a Mac where you have the icons and you double click on those.
Okay, so that's not like on like so do websites use GUI or?
No, it's the on your phone where you have to tap on an icon on one of the apps to open, or the double click on your desktop, or on your you have to double click to open up an app. That's what that is.
I see, okay.
Okay. Any other questions so far? Okay, let me shrink this up a little bit. Okay. What are UI design patterns? Are a fundamental part of UI design. These best practices are general solutions to common problems in UI. Design patterns help organizations by designing reusable, reliable solutions to a user interface problem. UI user interface design is what makes a design engaging and delightful to use. It inspires a user to feel a particular way when engaging with the product. Using typography, colors, and layouts, you can inspire feelings of trust and delight as users navigate your site or app. You'll develop style guides that define the visual language of your products. So when you're designing an app, or if you think about the apps that you use, you'll notice that the typography or the text is the same. Colors, color schemes will be the same. They may change depending on, say, if it's an app for like clothing. The colors may change a little bit depending on if it's for kids, if it's a section for kids, if it's a section for women, or if it's a section for men. The colors may change a little bit depending on that. The graphics may change a little bit too, depending on what part of the site you're on. But the overall design and layout remains the same. There's just little things here and there that may change. Okay. Visual principles: balance, scale and proximity, alignment, visual hierarchy, repetition, contrast, negative and implied space, and color theory. So I bring this up in my other classes about color. You want to research, and I have a page also here on Canvas. You want to research the colors that you're using in any design, whether it's print, web, or the apps, or even in photography. You want to research the colors that you're using, because a color in one country means something completely different in another country. So you don't want to be designing, you don't want to design something and say you have a user in another country, but that particular color is not maybe offensive, or it means something completely different to them. So color does play a big part in anything that you're designing. You may have to do two different designs depending on what you're designing, or who you're marketing it towards. So color does play a big part. And I'll go over the rest of these. I have, like I said, the other page in Canvas here with some of these, most of these visual principles as well. And then you have UI principles. So usability heuristics, ease of use, consistency, progress disclosure, reducing cognitive load, information hierarchy, space distribution, discoverability, and feedback. So error and success response. And that feedback is if it's an app or something that you have to log into, if there's an error with your password, you want to make sure that you have some form of a response that pops up, or something telling, you put the password in wrong. Ease of use, obviously you want to make sure that the app or the website is easy to use. People aren't getting frustrated while they're using it. Information hierarchy, that goes back to visual hierarchy. Those two work in combination. Obviously your information needs to be presented in such a way that it makes sense. You don't want to have to go jump back and forth between, say you're looking for a product on say Amazon, the Amazon app or the Amazon website. If you notice on there, they have the product description, the reviews, and that kind of stuff. But if you suddenly jump to another page and all that stuff is jumbled around, it kind of throws you off a little bit. So you want to make sure all your information that you're presenting to the person looking at the app or the website all makes sense. So those two work in combination with each other. Style guides. So that consists of logos, color palettes, fonts, grids, iconography, photography, and imagery. So you would need to design a logo. So if you think about Facebook, Twitter, they all have their little logos. Color palettes. Are you going to have a muted color palette? Are you going to have a strong, bold color palette? If it's an app that deals with food, there's certain colors that make people hungry that are, and that goes back again to color theory and color history. You want to make sure that the colors that you're using are appropriate to what you're designing. Fonts, that's basically just the text. How are you going to stylize that text? It needs to be easy to read. You don't want to use all caps because that's shouting. You want to use fonts that are easy to read. You don't want to use like Old English, that kind of thing. It doesn't translate well. It's harder to read. Grids help everything, keep them aligned. You don't want things all over the page. You want them in, nice, neat containers. Iconography are like little icons. So if you think about a stop sign or an arrow or a star, that would be consistent with certain parts of the app. So if you see a particular little icon, you know that it stands for something on the design or on a particular part of the app or the website. And then photography and imagery, photos usually help round out your design or your feeling of your overall design. Obviously, you want your photos and your images to represent what you're doing. You don't want some random picture that doesn't have anything necessarily to do with your overall design. Okay, so any questions on any of that part?
Sorry, did you say what progressive disclosure meant? I don't know if I just missed that.
No, I didn't say anything about that because I need to, let me look that up real fast.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just don't know what it means by looking at it.
Okay. Let's see here.
I was going to say the reducing cognitive load thing seems kind of what I was trying to kind of talk about with the moving the menus and stuff. And I like that terminology. It just kind of like captures the essence of like, don't make them think any more than they have to, basically.
Right. Okay, so progressive disclosure defers advanced or rarely used features to a secondary screen, making applications easier to learn and less error prone. So it's kind of like giving them more options, enough options to handle all their special needs. So if you kind of think of like the login screen, you don't want to have like you just want to have the login screen where people log in. And then once you log in, you get more of the options of, if you think of Facebook, you can go to your feed, you can go to your photos. It gives you more options past that. So for novice users, this helps prioritize their attention so that they spend time only on features that are most likely to be useful to them. Hiding advanced settings. By hiding the advanced settings, progressive disclosure helps novice users avoid mistakes and saves them time they would have spent contemplating features that they don't need.
Interesting. Thank you for looking that up for us.
Let me add this. Oops. Let me add that into. No. Sorry. Got too many windows open here. Need to go to the tab one. There it is. Okay, let me edit this and I'll put the link there. Wow, let me do that. Okay. All right, there's the link to that. Let me save this. And I'm going to go through this weekend and find some links to add to this as well. So there's more information. Okay. So I'm going to finish up this. I think, okay, I'm going to stop right here at the style guides part of it. And then on Tuesday, I'll go over the rest of it. I want to show you some of the other websites that I have in here for you to look at. So we'll come back to this on Tuesday. So let me go over to the pages. Okay, so have the UI design. I added a page about um, graphic design, but it's anything that you're designing, not just graphic design. If you think about print or printed media, it's anything. Okay. So you can read this over. I have stuff here about design principles, balance, alignment, proximity, contrast, repetition. And then I also have links to PDFs here that you can download, or you can look at them here in the page. And it gives you some more information about design, principles of design, alignment, repetition, contrast, proximity. This is that one. Elements of design. And this has to do with, if it would load, there it goes. Line, shape, color, texture, size, and space. And you may have learned about some of these in other classes that you've taken, but this is just for reference. And then I have basic elements of design. And it brings it down to a more graphic version of it with pictures. Design dictionary. So 36 terms you should know and understand. Some of it has to do with print, but most of it overall has to do with anything that you're designing, whether it's an app, website, even photography. So that's that. Famous designers. So it's just a PDF of different designers. When this Sal Bass did a lot of logos. He also did the posters for a lot of not Jimmy Stewart, Alfred Hitchcock movies. So that's what the famous designers is. And again, this is just stuff for you to look at for reference or just inspiration. Design principles cheat sheet. And it just gives you some more information, visual information with the different concepts. Okay. So again, for you to read whenever you have time. And then there's two videos here, Fundamentals of Design and Beginning Graphic Design Fundamentals. One's on YouTube and one's on Vimeo. So you can watch those when you have time. And then design process, I did that. Color websites. So these are some websites where you can get color information, color psychology. Again, certain colors mean certain things. They're used in certain ways. So on this one, it has emotion, industry, and what it's used to do or used for. So again, this is just all research information, reference information for you. If there are websites or resources that you have and you'd like to share with everybody, you can put them in the announcement. I have them in the discussion. I have a general discussion tab here. You can post questions, references, or anything